I'm going to begin now and show you the many arrows that the Seventh-day Adventists make in their interpretation of Daniel in chapter 9 in dealing with the 490 years of prophecy of Daniel. The first obvious mistake they make is trying to make a connection between Daniel 8 and 9 when there is no connection whatsoever. In fact, if you begin reading it, Daniel 9:1, you'll find out that he's only concerned about the 70 years of Babylonian captivity. Before I get into the obvious arrows, though, let me give you a quote by a person who was raised Seventh-day Adventist by the name of Tom Norris, who says this, and I quote, "The SDAs do not have credible eschatology for the 21st century. The predicted Sunday law cannot be the beginning of the time of trouble because the New Testament does not support such a position. Thus, they need to pay closer attention to Paul's gospel-based eschatology as well as the book of Revelations in order to develop a credible version of Adventist eschatology," end quote. So there are Seventh-day Adventist members and others who know that their eschatology is just totally off. But now let me look at the many errors that they make when they deal with Daniel's 490 years of prophecy. The first mistake they make is not giving any documentation to their dates. They have a date of the beginning of the decree in 457. They then connect that with the baptism of Jesus. They say that happens in 27 AD. Also connected is with the death of Jesus. They say is in 31 AD. And then the death of Stephen, where they say that this 490-year period ends with the death of Stephen in 34 AD. The problem is they give no documentation as to where they get those dates. Now, I have read from scholars who say the beginning date is 458, such as Showers, a guy named Zasper, and another guy by the name of Waldeverds, and several others who say the beginning date is 458 BC, based on the starting date of 464 when Artaxerxes' 7th year was. There are people like Sir Robert Anderson who gives a starting date of 445 in his book The Coming Prince. And the thing that those people do is they document where they get their starting dates from, so you can go back and check it and research it yourself to see if the starting date is correct. But the problem with Seventh-day Adventists is this. Now, with the starting date of 457, they go back and pick the wrong date of Artaxerxes in chapter 7. So they have done an historical injustice there by not getting Artaxerxes' reign correct. But with the others dealing with the baptism of Jesus in 27 AD, they give no documentation as to where they get the date of 27 AD to start with. It just, here it is, it's 27 AD. Now, if it is indeed 27 AD, that means they would have to place the birth of Jesus in 3 BC. He would have taken his public office at the age of 30, and if it was 27 AD when he was baptized, then they have to go back to 3 BC for the beginning or for the birth of Christ. But to do that, they never go back and tell you when they thought Christ was born, nor give any supporting documents or any evidence whatsoever that Jesus was born in 3 BC. In fact, if you do start doing research yourself, you're going to find that there are varying years as to the birth of Jesus, ranging anywhere from 7 BC to 1 BC. And the people who give those dates give the reasons why they think it's 7 BC or 1 BC, whichever date they choose. But yet SDA scholars or leaders or members, as far as that goes, give you no documentation as to why they think the birth of Jesus would be in 3. So all they do is throwing stuff out there, expecting people to be stupid enough, I guess, never to do any research on this. But anyway, then they use the death of Jesus as 31 AD. Again, giving no documentation as to why they say it's 31 AD. None whatsoever. No biblical documentation, no historical documentation, or anything else. I have read different scholars who say that the death of Jesus could have occurred anywhere from 29 AD to 33 AD, and they give documentation where you can look at it and see. But yet Seventh-day Adventists, again, give no documentation as to why they think Jesus died in 31 AD. Just boom, here it is. The reason they're doing that is because they're force-fitting their theology here. And that's why they don't ever give you any documentation, because if they ever gave you any documentation, then you could easily pick it apart then as well. But it's hard to argue a position when you don't even know what their position is. They just said 31 AD, boom, that's it. They're never giving no documentation on it. And then they make, I think is the most fatal error in it, by saying that Daniel's 490 years of prophecy ended with the death of Stephen in 34 AD. Again, no documentation as to why they say the death of Stephen is in 34 AD. In fact, I've found very few people who even ventured to guess about the death of Stephen, because it's just not, apparently it's just not recorded as to when the death of Stephen took place. I did read one scholar who said 33 AD, but again, he didn't give any evidence as to why himself, so I don't know if it's 33 AD or not. And we surely don't know if it's 34 AD, because there's absolutely no documentation they give that a person can go look at it and say, yes, Stephen must have died in 34 AD. They give no documentation whatsoever. And they want to end Daniel's prophecy there, but the problem is that part of the prophecy that Jesus was talking about that was linked to Daniel is that the temple would be destroyed itself. If you'll look in Matthew chapter 24, where the Olivet Discourse begins, you'll see Jesus talked about the temple being destroyed and not one stone left turned upon another. And the problem is that the temple was not destroyed in 34 AD. It was still standing. It wasn't destroyed until 70 AD by Titus, the Roman general. Now then, there is a connection a person can make with that, though. We know that the earthly ministry of Jesus was 3.5 years. That would leave 3.5 years of Daniel's 490 years of prophecy that had not been fulfilled, because the destruction of the temple would have had to have taken place. If you will go and check history, and this is easily verified, you will see that actually the Romans began to attack Jerusalem to destroy it as early as the summer of 66 AD. Now, being destroyed in 70 AD would have been about 3.5 years, which would have completed Daniel's 490 years of prophecy. And Jesus tying the destruction of the temple to that, it makes far better sense to say that Daniel's 490 years prophecy, the last 7 years was 3.5 years of the ministry of Jesus on earth. The last 3.5 years could very well have been when Jerusalem was getting ready to be destroyed, starting in 66, going to 70 AD, 3.5 years there, completing Daniel's 490 years of prophecy. So the whole point is that there's no support whatsoever for the dates they give. They give you nothing there where you can go and look at the death of Jesus, the baptism of Jesus, the birth of Jesus, or the death of Stephen. They just put it out there as though it's fact and never give you any documentation whatsoever. Now, again, preachers of the Seventh-day Adventists and the leaders, I can understand them saying that and deceiving people by that. But again, those who are sitting in the pews, surely you can't be brain dead that you don't go check these things out yourself. You know, to think I'm just sitting here putting something out, you go look up for yourself. If you think that this is not true, you go begin to try to find it yourself. And you'll find they're totally misleading you. Surely it's your eternal soul at stake, not theirs. You would care enough about your eternal soul to check the things out for yourself. On all these dates they're using, they're giving no documentation whatsoever that a person can go look at it and verify it. Until next time, this has been Golly saying, God bless.